All right, you want me to roll the intro?
Roll it.
Okay, I'll press the button. Here it comes.
Hi, this is Nick, the commentator. I would like to welcome you to SmackTalk RC podcast with my boys, the Camera and Bobby Watts.
Yeah.
Hello there.
Hello there. How you doing, Bob?
I'm good. How you doing?
Doing good. So, I've gotten some comments from people that say, you guys just go straight down to the point of your podcast. You guys don't share anything about, like, what you've been doing, what you've been up to, and...
Straight to the point, I guess.
And it's funny because I used to listen to the RC Heli Nation podcast, and I used to give those guys a lot of shit because they spent a lot of time talking about...
Not silencing their phones, perhaps?
My phone is actually silent, but it's my stupid watch. Unbelievable. But
remember last time the Burt camera does not have real problems?
Yeah.
There it is.
I didn't complain. You're the one that caught it. I don't even think the listeners would have even noticed.
I heard it. Anyway.
But, I used to give those RC Heli Nation guys a lot of shit because they spent a lot of time talking about what they've done in the last couple of weeks or whatever, the last week since the last podcast. But I guess we got to do it, don't we? I mean, people ask, like, you guys just jump straight to the point. They want us to be a little bit more...
they want us to BS more.
Yeah, talkative about our experiences and what we've been doing since the last podcast. So what you been up to?
Well, it's hard for me to say what I've been up to because here's the nature of the beast. So I do a lot of design work, as you know, and I design everything from flying drones to helicopters to... like military stuff, all the way to like a toothpaste dispenser. And usually it takes about a year and a half between the time I design something to the time I can talk about it. So I really can't talk about shit. I'd love to say everything I'm working on, but I really can't. Some really, really, really big things going on, I guess I could say. And I've just been busy designing shit, and then yesterday we were out.
Come on.
I can't even say. So yesterday I was filming a drone for a company I can't even talk about, but all I can say is it's some out of this world stuff.
So what
That's
else?
about
Like,
it.
what do you do? What else do you do for fun? I mean, design work, whatever. That's bullshit work.
So like, for
what does
fun.
Bobby Watts do for fun? Like,
Okay.
what's your
So, like-
pastime hobbies aside from helicopters?
Let's see. So we have the dog. Carly and I have the dog. We spend a lot of time with the dog.
The dog.
We run him around every day. Every day we go run him somehow, some way. Been doing that. We do, some exercise. Wake up at like 6, go to the gym, feel good. Good way to start the day. Let's see, what else have we been doing? Been staying busy. Filed a patent about 2 weeks ago. Some new shit once
Can you
again.
share?
No. I wish I could. But filed a patent.
Does it have to do with helicopters?
Has to do with flying aerial things.
Okay.
But that's about it. Let's see. Working with a super big as seen on TV company with something that I came up with.
Nice.
Can't talk about that. So welcome to the world of...
Can't talk about shit.
Can't talk about shit. So how about you? You're probably in the same boat. You can't talk about shit. So this is why we don't bullshit.
This sucks.
Because we can't...
This is true.
Bert is sitting on top of some really cool shit, and he can't talk about it.
Yeah, I can't talk about it.
And we're really not trying to be knuckleheads about it.
No, but this is true. I'm working on a new project myself.
Yeah.
It's keeping me really, really busy for the last 2-3 weeks. And I can't talk about it. Isn't that fucked up?
It's really fucked up. It's really freaking.
But people will know
up.
in due time, though. I mean, that's all I can say. Like, at least at least on my side, like what I'm working on, people will find out in the next 2 months. What you're working on, some of those things they might never find out.
Some of the things never come out.
Some of those things,
fruition.
well, if they don't, eventually you can talk about it. So, like,
eventually,
depending on the circumstances. But
eventually,
yeah, it does suck to not be able to discuss. some of these things.
It does, because I mean, every day I go on SolidWorks and design stuff, and like I said, it's like 2 years, a year and a half to 2 years before people can find out what I'm working on, and by that time I'm kind of over it and I'm working on the next project, so I'll make like a post about it, but that's really about it.
Yep.
It's really a pain, but other than that, let's see. Kyle, Stacy, and I went to the Birmingham Fun Fly. What was that, last 2 weekends ago? And it was fun, but it's sad, man. It's sad. I think it's time to get into.
Dead?
I think it's time to revisit the RC. Are RC helicopters dead?
We could probably do another episode and talk about that some more, I think. But why? No, not a lot of people?
I think RC helicopters are dead, and it's all of our fault.
It's all our fault?
It's all our fault.
Our fault?
Everybody's.
Dude,
it's dying bad, man. Like, that event, I went to that in 2005 as the first time. And it was like, 5 guys in a Ford Explorer for 14 hours through the night. Like, come on, man. I don't know that many people doing that kind of stuff now. I might be totally wrong, and hopefully there's some guys listening, maybe on their way to a Fun Fly right now, who can write to us and say, hey, you guys are full of shit. The RC Helis is alive and well. But I have 2 big reasons why I think that RC Helis will never come back to where it is. And I hope by saying this, I can challenge people to maybe prove me wrong. But I don't see it happening, and here's why.
Okay.
So quick story. So we go to Birmingham. Years ago, there were 100-something pilots there, 120. I don't know what, but every flight station's typically full. And
Birmingham was the sort of interrupt you,
clock.
but Birmingham was the biggest event aside from IRCHA in the U.S.
It was huge.
Yeah, it was like I think it was the biggest period until OHB came out. Birmingham was 160 plus, 180 plus sometimes, I think.
Yeah, I mean it was huge, and you had pilots from all over coming there, and the Southern hospitality, and it was really, and you had guys night flying a lot, and the spotlight flying, and just carrying on, and the damn watch goes off again. God, it's just such a problem. Just I don't know how you do it with the watch.
I don't know what the deal is. If you put the stupid phone in airplane mode, why is the watch working? That makes no sense.
You're on the wrong show to ask me that question. Yeah. I don't know. But anyway, so we go to Birmingham, and it's like the first day there were 30 pilots on Friday.
That was pretty sad.
Yeah. And by Saturday, I think there was 50 or 60. But like the hosts were so gracious. Everyone was so nice to us. That couldn't have been nicer. And people are flying, and it felt cool, but I know what that event could be, and I know what that event has been in the past, and every event like it. Name any event, and we're saying, oh, I wish it was like it used to be, right?
Yeah.
So here's the 2 reasons why I feel like the helis are going in a very bad direction, and hopefully people can change it. Number 1, there's no competitions here in the U.S. anymore. None. There's F3C, F3N,
but
here's
there's
why.
Never been.
There's been one. There's been XFC. That's all it takes.
But
hold on. When you were 30-something-year-old Burt Kammerer meeting 16-year-old Bobby Watts, whatever, was that like 12, 13 years ago, and we both wanted to get really good and show that we had it, what did we do? We signed up for XFC, which at the time was the only competition here in the USA. And that alone drove us to fly every day, 10 flights a day to get better. Right? And if you don't have new emerging pilots coming up, and you don't have something to aspire to, what's the point in doing it?
Yeah.
So I would argue now, like I almost hate to say it, but last time I was in Baltimore, I saw a younger guy really practicing. Like, man, I'm getting better. I really want to learn Piro flips and TikToks. And then he's like, maybe compete one day. And I'm like, compete where? He's like, oh, well, maybe I can go over to Global 3D or something. I'm like, is your sponsor going to pay for that? He's like, I don't have any sponsors. Okay, exactly. So I think just the fact that there's no competitions in the USA, so XFC is arguably done. If not, they had a really poor turnout last year. So I don't think it's going to happen. So I think because you don't have that aspiring notion of, oh, I need to get good because I need to compete, period. That's like something to strive for. Because you don't have that, you're not going to have the new evolving pilots coming up. I would argue the top pilots for the last 4 years have been the same. 5 years have been the same. Before before that, you never had
longer.
Yeah,
longer.
Whatever. Sure.
Yeah, it used to be that there was a new generation of pilots. You had the Curtis generation with Todd Bennett and stuff, and Jason Krause coming slightly later. And then you had the Allen generation, and which was alongside sort of Marcus, Cam, and those guys. Then you had you and I and a group of others. Then you had the Kyle Dahl, Stacy, and Jamie Robertson generation. And then what happened after that?
Exactly. The competitions went away.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge problem. And it folds into point number 2 that I'd like to make, and it's a circle. It's a chicken egg sort of thing, that there's no manufacturers out there coming out with new stuff, with the exception of a few. You
want me to tell you what screwed competitions? In a way, the fact that the pilots have gotten spoiled because some companies, and I'm not going to name them, have offered their pilots money for winning competitions. Pilots have gotten spoiled to the point where they expect a large prize pool for competitions.
Yeah, but that's not many. It wasn't many.
There's still some. So if there's a competition and the price is not attractive enough, it's just not going to lure enough people to come and compete.
But I think the biggest problem is the fact that you don't have a manufacturer supporting a competition because there's not enough money in the competition to make it worthwhile to them sponsoring it. So if the event coordinator is not going to get enough people to sponsor a competition, then they're not going to have it. And if they're not going to have it, then guess what? There's no new kids. I say kids, but yeah, realistically, come on, it's going to be kids. There's no new teenagers coming up practicing all day, every day to get to that goal, to achieve that. And I think that it's a vicious circle. Like, and I don't know how to fix it. I don't know how to stop it. But I'm just saying the fact that if there was a competition which made, I'm just looking at myself, like back when I'm 16, senior in high school, and I look at, I all I wanted was the XFC DVD from the year before for Christmas. Like, come on. And there's not that now. Now, I'm not saying there's no overseas competitions, because there's Global 3D and competitions of that nature. But
the Zone is still around, yeah.
Yeah, but in the USA at least, which arguably, we just have more pilots in the USA than anyone else. We're such a huge
not anymore.
No, maybe not in Europe or something. Yeah. But we have a very large amount of pilots that here in the USA, from what we're used to, there's no competitions, which isn't going to drive kids to fly better, which isn't going to drive innovation. Because remember, why did helicopters have to get so much better? Oh, yeah, because we were blowing the shit out of them in the air. You pull both sticks back and it's
So how did you get into this conversation? You were talking about Birmingham, and all of a sudden you ended up talking about...
Because it was sad. It was sad. I go to Birmingham, and I love... It's one of my favorite events of the year, because it's usually like... The hospitality's cool, and the field is awesome.
The weather used to suck horribly.
This year was good, but it's my favorite field to fly at. Period. It's wide open. You happen to have a 10-foot wide trench that's 2 feet deep, so it's easy to fly low and do smack. And I remember back years ago, it was 2006, 2007, or whatever. Whenever I would fly there, it was such like a cool, you push each other sort of thing. Like one guy would go...
It was a showdown time.
Yeah. And it just kind of reminds me of that. And then to go back and to see there's no newcomers coming.
Well, and apparently our advice to our listeners the last couple of podcasts where we said go to events did not work out.
Did not include... But, and I'm not saying this in a bad way, but you didn't go. But hold on, you didn't go because there's not enough people. So you could have gone personally to fly. Cool, totally get it. But for you to go properly, to show your servos, to show your blades, to show everything that you got, bring the camper, bring a tent, a booth, or whatever. It's going to be a lot of money. If there's only going to be 60 people there, why would you go?
No, but that wasn't the reason. We had a lot of stuff going on around that time, and then that was the. In addition to the fact that we were really busy that week, that Saturday we ended up going to Bike Week, because that's once a year.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. But I couldn't have taken enough time to move the camper there and everything else. And like you're saying,
right.
Sure, we sent product there for donation and stuff. Wasn't much, but we tried to help them. Yeah,
they had a good amount for donations.
But it's
not just you, but imagine. I don't know, any retailer in Jersey or something, why would they spend so much money to come down and set up product for if there's only going to be 50 people there? And it's a vicious cycle. And then people don't go because not that many people are going. You know what I mean?
I see exactly what you mean. It's tough. It's tough times for RC helis, no doubt.
Yeah. And I heard a story. I'm not going to say his name, but I met a pilot there. Really nice guy, super nice guy. I think he's one of your guys actually.
Flies for you.
No, I'm not going to. And he was practicing, I believe, for an F3N competition over in Poland. Okay, and he said, "Hey, I'm practicing for F3N." I said, "Okay, cool." And he's like, "But they want me to fly for the
Synergy
team
too, right?
I'm not gonna say, but he's like, so they want me to fly for the USA team. I said, great. He said, but it's gonna cost me $7,000 out of my own pocket to go compete. And I've been practicing my set maneuvers every day. And man, I just don't know if it's worth it.
Was he doing good?
Yeah, I mean, he was doing fine. I thought he was.
I know who you're talking about.
But it's not about the pilot, but it's the fact that it's okay. So you have a team who wants you to go compete on your behalf.
He gets no help from the U.S. team,
And
absolutely, because
so-
it's F3 and not F3C.
But even still, it's the fact that there's not a competition where he could go. I would much rather say, dude, just drive up to Indiana in June and go compete in XFC. Because that used to be a really prominent competition for you to get your foot in the door and get
And
going.
I know who you're talking about. He really wants to go to F3N, but I don't know that he's going to be able to pull it off because it's a huge financial commitment just for what? Just to go
I
and
told
have
him,
fun?
don't go. I said, screw it, dude. You're crazy if you go. Spend $6,000, take your wife somewhere nice, and go on a proper vacate. Don't spend $6,000 to go do something that you're forced to practice, like set maneuvers, unless you're totally in love with it. And I think he was on the fence, so that's why I said, it's not worth $6,000 at me to go. Like, I wouldn't go for $6,000. But if he were to talk to a manufacturer of any, for example, he flies your servos. If you saw it was beneficial to give him $6,000 to go fly for him, then maybe you could sponsor him and go. But it's not going to be worth it.
It's a lot of money
because the
It's a lot of
events
money.
aren't what they used to be.
Yeah, and
'cause
you
then
don't get
people-
anything out of it. Yeah.
So maybe you guys, if you're listening and I'd love if you completely disagree with us. I'd love to hear, or I think Bert's pretty neutral, but I'm kind of on fire on this one because I just remember what like a competition meant to us to practice for, and that's why we got good. And because of that,
I'm not neutral.
It's not there.
I'm not as passionate about that particular topic as you are.
right.
I don't think that I do agree that plays a huge role, but I don't think that's the determining goal, the determining factor as to why the hobby's down. But I do agree with you that plays a big role.
Yeah.
Yes.
And once again, I think it drives innovation because once again, like when we were flying in contests, right? And we wanted a nice blend between smack and like precision because we had to do both. And for a while, the helicopters could do one or the other. They couldn't do they couldn't do both. So that drove innovation. But now, no top pilots. I mean, I don't mean that, but
new talent, up and coming talent that can display their abilities at a competition. Yeah.
Yeah. So you don't have that. So then you're not driving the innovation. Then on top of that, you don't have the events like you used to have. And I look at it as every single way possible. The helicopters will not get back to where they were because of those reasons, unless those change.
Could be.
And so
you've
that was
talked-
Birmingham.
You've talked about
Those 18
for like
minutes.
18 minutes about
We were ranting.
what you've been doing at Birmingham.
Yeah, that was it. But other than that,
funny.
driving with Kyle. Dude, that kid's hysterical, man. He's freaking hysterical, man.
I'm sure.
He's such a funny dude. I don't know. I like it. It was good hanging out with him. But I think there's Huntsville coming up. I'm on the fence about
Steve
that.
Helms Memorial.
I know. I'd love to go to that, but as you know, things get in the way and blah blah blah.
Well, it's a financial commitment to go to events. Like
Yeah, it is.
we tell people, like we push people to go to events, but it has to make sense. It has
does.
to make sense for you personally, financially. It can't conflict with work or with prior commitment with the family or with the girlfriend or the wife or the
Right.
kids or whatever. And you're not going to spend, I hate to say it, but nobody's going to spend, just a normal person that is not in the business side of the hobby is not going to spend $2,000-$3,000 to travel from California to Birmingham just to go to an event that has 50 pilots.
Yep.
I don't want to be rude about it, but it's the honest truth. I mean, where do you draw the line? Now, would that same person spend $2,000 or $3,000 to go to IRCHA? That's a different story.
That
IRCHA
one's
might be
different.
worth
IRCHA's
it.
different.
Yeah, IRCHA is
Yeah.
a big event. It's like the event in the world. But I think that people should be encouraged to at least attend events that are within, if something is within 5 6 hour driving distance, To me, it would be a
that's
no-brainer.
fine.
It would be a no-brainer. You leave at 5, 6 a.m., you'll be there by noon. You hang out, fly that day. You pay one night hotel. You fly all day the next day till 5 or 6, and then you drive home. You're home by midnight. And you can do that with a relatively small amount of money. When you're talking 12-hour drive or an airplane,
it adds up.
It adds
fast.
Up. Yeah.
It adds up fast.
Sure.
The only other thing that I've been seeing more out of like social media that kind of helps the RC stuff, I think it helps out a lot, is the going live thing. I think it's really cool that we didn't have years ago, and it's been really good. I have one of those stupid DJI Mavics. It's like a
and all the videos you do anymore are with that thing.
I love it,
That's
man.
all
You
do.
throw it in the field throw it up in the air for 25 minutes, and it records your audio as you're streaming live, and it streams in like relatively HD.
Yeah.
And it's great. And I noticed, like, went live for one of my flights and one of Kyle's flights, and it was really cool because everybody can interact, and I think it's fun for the audience. So
it's cool.
I think once Bert gets back into flying more recently, then we'll push him to go live, and we'll see Mr.
I've been
Camera.
flying. I got a new helicopter.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
What'd you get?
It's a Goblin T.
A T. What's
T.
What's
it's
a
a T? It's a special helicopter.
Really?
It's the lightest Goblin ever. So
It's electric or nitro?
electric.
Nice.
Yeah.
Like 12S?
12S, but very high head speed and very lightweight.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Well,
You
are
wouldn't
we
like
flying
it.
this weekend?
You would
No,
hate it.
I don't like electric anymore.
Sunday we're flying.
Sunday?
You don't like electrics anymore?
Nah.
No, you're probably going Saturday
back
because
and
Gator
forth.
is going Saturday.
I go back and forth. No, Sunday's my fun day. Sunday fun day.
Sunday I'm going. I can't go Saturday. I have to go to a funeral.
I know, I heard. It's very sad.
Very sad news, but the owner of Graves RC passed away about a week ago.
Very sad.
He's the father of a very good friend of mine, and
He started Graves RC.
he founded Graves RC, and he actually
Huge hobby shop. Like,
Yeah,
biggest
yeah.
brick and mortar.
and he
right?
he body boxed me years and years ago.
Really?
Like, yeah. He was cool. So if the family's listening, our condolences here. I'll be at the funeral Saturday. So
Very cool.
yeah.
Well, sorry to hear that. But maybe we can move into some lighter.
Yeah.
That people are just afraid to crash.
Everybody is. I am afraid to crash.
Now
You're not
I
afraid
am.
to crash?
Now I am because of the time.
I never.
I won't fix it. It'll take weeks to fix.
It's screwed up because in the beginning I was afraid to crash because I had to buy my own parts.
Right.
Then I went through a period where I just didn't give a shit. It's just
And you
whatever.
crashed a
I was
lot.
getting free parts and I was getting paid to travel and fly, and it was awesome. And I just crashed the shit out of my helicopter all the time. Like, it was not intentionally, but I just didn't care. Like, if I needed to push, I pushed
Right.
a lot of times harder than I could. And now I'm back to that mode where I still get a lot of help with parts, and I have a huge collection of parts that probably would last me 10 years. But, dude, I just can't fathom sitting down for hours and hours and fixing.
Right. It takes forever to fix now.
Fucking sucks.
Do you realize that, like, building a new model really takes a long time?
But
if you want to do it right.
I just finished building this Goblin T, and let me tell you, I love building.
But crashing's worse. 'Cause
Crashing
then you
is
have to
crashing
clean
is
it.
there's no point of comparison. Crashing is 10 times worse. When I build, I take the kit and I pull all the bags out of the box and the frames
nicely.
and everything, and I lay it all out on my table, and I get every tool, and I just literally spend like 20 minutes just thinking, what am I gonna need? Because a lot of times you're in the middle of a build and you're like, shit, I need zip ties or whatever, and like you spend time digging for stuff. So I just make a list. What do I need? I need zip ties. I need double-sided tape. I need my servos. I need this. I need that. I need every. Excuse me.
The smoking.
Even
Listen
no,
to that
it's actually-
smoking right there. Yeah.
It had nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
I choke with my own water.
Water?
My one watered down Diet Coke cocktail. But anyway, even like a reamer for the canopy hole, like everything.
Yeah.
And I lay it all down on the table, and then I just start and I finish, and everything's clean and everything's nice and it's just it's fun because you're thinking, oh yeah, cool,
Right.
this is ready, it's gonna be badass, it's brand new.
Right.
But when you wrench to fix a crash, it freaking sucks.
It's the worst.
Everything is bent to hell. It's dirty a lot of times because we live in Florida, and
It's
fucking
sandy.
Florida
It's
sand,
sandy. Shit
and the
gets sandy.
sand sticks to shit, and the gears and everything, and then like there's
Yeah.
carbon splinters everywhere, and like it just sucks. And you spent almost as much time disassembling and recovering shit that works than you spent like putting stuff back together. Like I hate it. I freaking despise it.
But do you?
So yes, crashing sucks because I don't want to wrench. And a lot of people probably don't mind wrenching, but they don't want to spend the money. So I don't blame them either. Like it's a lot of money. A lot of times you would crash and it wouldn't be so bad. Other times it would be a mild crash and it would be devastating in terms of what you break.
Right.
You can't tell what's going to happen. Like it's a hit or miss. It's a matter of luck.
It depends how it hits. But would you argue? So, without a shadow of a doubt, we don't crash as much as we used to. Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, do you think that means that we're not learning as much as we do?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, with that being said, so if we made that connection, can we make another connection that says if you're not crashing, you're not learning? Is that true?
I don't think you can generalize. There are people that learn without crashing. It depends on the natural ability of the person and, you know, the reflexes and their age and, yeah, I don't know how much simulator time they spend and everything else. But I to a degree, I think that there's some validity to that statement. I don't think you can generalize and say if you're not crashing, you're not learning. But there is some, to a degree, there's some truth about that. To a degree.
I would argue that too. But, you know, it's funny too. I felt like years ago, not to get back to where RC helis were, but I feel like years ago, it was a really big thing to fly low all the time. And I don't see that anymore. Feels like when Flybarless came in, that went away.
You just read my mind. It went away when Flybarless came
I wonder what you think, because you couldn't,
You just couldn't.
because
can't.
everything goes so much faster now. I think that's what it is.
I think there's two factors. I remember I used to fly low as hell, like really low. I used to be like maybe not quite Marcus Kim low, but pretty close to him.
He was one of the lowest.
Yeah.
He and Alan.
And when I went from Flybar to Flybarless, it was like I just can't do it. I think the original Flybarless system, like the flight controllers of the time, just didn't allow you to do it. They sucked. But then as Flybarless controllers got better and better and better,
Right.
at the same time, frames got stronger, mechanical components got stronger, blades got better, servos got faster, batteries got better, motors got more powerful, and helicopters in themselves started to move faster through the air, and the style evolved and changed to a much faster, much more intense style that kind of kept people from really going that low. So I think still to this day, you can do very, very low maneuvers as long as you slow it down just a little bit. But if you look at, for example, like Marcus Kim back in 2006 or 7 or whatever, when he does these like stationary flips or whatever he does, or TikToks very low to the ground, he's not doing them as fast, anywhere near as fast as most of the guys are doing them now.
Sure.
So speed and ground proximity are not good friends. When you start to flip at one flip a second, good luck if you get it any lower than a foot.
Exactly.
You're gonna go in.
I feel like there are some guys now who really who fly low. Like to name a few, I know Kyle Dahl flies really low, and like Duncan Bassione flies really low. But I feel like years ago, if you weren't doing that, then you weren't considered like a good pilot.
Yeah.
But now, I mean, those guys are excellent pilots, but just because they're flying low doesn't mean that they're a good pilot. They're a good pilot because they're damn good pilots. Like, they're doing really cool shit.
Yeah.
And it also happens to be low. So
Yeah.
I feel like luckily that went away, because that got just tiring. Flying low the whole time. Man, we broke so much shit.
You didn't like that shit.
I did it, but I always like to mix it up. Like, I always like to fly like a slightly conservative altitude, but then you have your moments in your flight, like a tail slide. If I could pull it out dragging the skids on the ground, I would love to do that. But you're not going to do that every time.
Yeah.
I did that once and chopped the boom off. I mean, come on.
But what do you think, here's the interesting thing I was thinking about. You were asking me earlier, like, if you're not crashing, you're not learning. you realize the first year that I started doing helicopters heavily, I think it might have been 2005. I don't remember. The first year I started doing helis very, very intensely, like heavily, like on a regular basis. I only had one crash in the entire year.
That's good.
One crash. And that is the year when I progressed from basic loops, rolls, maybe an occasional auto rotation to doing actual 3D. And that was, I would say, between the middle of 2005 and the middle of 2006. One crash. So with that being said, it doesn't always necessarily apply the whole theory of if you're not crashing, you're not learning. If you're careful, if you have a bailout plan, I used to tell people during the Learning 3D series, SmackTalkRC.com, I used to tell people...
Shameless plug.
Yeah, shameless plug. I used to tell people, but it's actually true. Don't, when you start a new maneuver, don't do it without a bailout plan.
Right.
And do it pretty high.
Yep.
And 90% of the time, you can get away with it. I mean... crashing doesn't need to be a part of flying, really. I mean, think about it. If you fly regularly and you only do the maneuvers you're totally comfortable with at a decent altitude or this decent height, but then when you want to try something completely new, you go up higher and you think of it ahead of time in your mind, and you rehearse it in your head or in your mind, or you rehearse it in the sim, and you always have a bailout plan, there is no reason for you to crash.
I agree.
The crashing comes from getting cocky and thinking you can do it when you can't. You got to be realistic and honest with yourself. Can you do it?
I'll agree. But I think too, though, in a good way, that we're not crashing as much because we've become much better builders, and the machines are so much better now that they mostly work. And arguably now, I would argue nowadays, put any average guy's 3D machine up in the air for a whole flight versus anyone's 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And the one 10 years ago is gonna crap out first. So we're not having the mechanical problems that we used to have. They still exist, absolutely.
But break it down into like two.
Like
I like to break crash into like two categories. You got your crashes that are caused because of reasons completely outside of your control. Completely outside of your control.
Right.
Meaning, a servo failed. I mean, shit happens. I mean,
Sure.
I make servos and I know they can fail, and any servo brand for that matter, period, can fail. Flight controller having an issue, electrostatic discharge messing up with your RF transmission, ESC cutting off, gear strip. I mean, those are things that are completely outside of your control. Then you got the stuff that's within your control, and there's the stuff that's a dumb thumb. There's three categories for me there. I'll split it into three.
All right.
There's the one where you have an actual failure, and the pilot would be like, piece of shit, helicopter fell on me. No.
Right.
It was pilot error. Why? He forgot to Loctite a bolt.
We had Mr. Gator. He had an aileron servo come out the other day. He's TikToking, and the aileron servo
came
falls
off the helicopter.
off.
Yeah.
I've never seen a servo fall off.
He didn't tighten his screws.
That was awesome.
No
I've never
lock-
seen an aileron servo come out in flight. But anyway,
so that's pilot error. Some pilots will blame it. Will pretend that it's a mechanical failure.
You used to blame it on lockouts. I've seen you.
Oh, you're full of shit. You're talking about Craig. Craig.
No. I've seen you like fucking 10 years ago. You would plow it in, and then you would say, you're like, I had no control. And damn well you put that bitch in.
You're so stupid.
Yeah.
You're full of shit.
Or the damn, I'm not saying the name, but the radio would lock out, and then you would just say, no, I got you. You would go the other way.
All the time.
You would go the other way, and you'd say, no, I just dumb thumbed it. Like you would protect the radio sponsor, which was very nice of you. But it was always one.
Yeah, you're so stupid. You don't know what you're talking about.
Exactly
anyway, there's three classes that I consider.
Right, so that's the first. What's the second?
So the first is when the pilot fucks up and forgets to Loctite something or does something stupid and it fails. The number two is when the pilot blatantly just dumb thumbs it out of the wrong stick input. I have not experienced that, knock on wood, in like 10 years plus.
Well,
that means
we gotta get you doing new maneuvers there.
Well, that means like no, because you do a new maneuver, you do it high enough, so when you lose it, you save it. But that is when You're going to do like you're upside down and you're going to, I don't know, just bail out, come out of upside down and you're a foot off the ground. And instead of going negative, you go positive. That's what I call like a complete dumb thumb. Like you screwed up. You went the wrong way. And then class 3, or the third way that it happens is, in my opinion, is when you just clip something on the ground because you were in control. You were moving the sticks in the correct direction, but you just got a little bit too low, and then your tail fin touched, or your tail blades barely touched the ground, or your skids, or something happened to where it basically threw the helicopter out of balance, and you just crashed.
Right.
So
those are the 3.
I have the only type I've experienced is the latter. Is the one where like I clip something on the ground, or I touch the tail, or I haven't experienced the other ones, but I know, not in recent times, obviously I've done them all, but nonetheless, crashing freaking sucks because it's the walk of shame to pick up your shit, and everybody makes a big deal out of it. That's the part that pisses me off the most. When we're at like the flying field and everybody's like, oh man, everybody's like, oh, like bent out.
Like a family member died.
Yeah, it's like, dude, shut the fuck up. It's just a helicopter. I'll go and fix it. Yeah. Like, it's not a big deal. Yeah. That bothers me more than me crashing. Yeah.
All right.
When people make a big deal out of it.
All right. So how about this? So let's talk about your worst crash ever. You yourself. What is your
Ray?
Worst? Well, we'll get to that. We'll go you first. What is your worst crash ever? I have mine in mind, and we'll ask Ray about his. But
well, share yours first, because I have to think
absolutely
about this.
Without a shadow of a doubt. I was reminded of this.
But wait a minute, let me clarify this.
Jesus.
Hold on. Worst crash in terms of damage, or worst crash in terms of the embarrassment? Worst crash in terms of...
You make of it what you want.
Okay.
But I know my worst crash by far. I was at Birmingham like 08, I think it was 08, and I was flying like a prototype miniature aircraft machine. And I put a new receiver pack in that day, like freshly soldered by an unnamed person, I'm not going to say, and his unnamed friend. And he's like, here's your receiver pack. I'm like, okay. So I'm flying 1 minute in. Oh, I don't got it.
Was that me?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. Bam. Crashes. Funky chicken rolls into the... If anyone doesn't know what a funky chicken is... Oh, dude,
I saw the pictures. That's the one that burned the hell.
Into the mud. It went into the mud. And a funky chicken is when a nitro motor keeps... Or electric. But the motor keeps going. And it chops the tail boom off and chops the blades in half, and it just beats itself in a circle like a funky chicken. So it funky chicken into the mud, and everything died. The only thing that was left was the muffler exhaust, the little rubber muffler exhaust thingy. But that was my worst. But it went home in a trash bag and stunk my apartment for like 2 months because I didn't feel like looking at it. That by far. And the whole flight line shut down just to look at it because it was a 10-minute long funky chicken. So, without a doubt, that's my worst.
You're going to freaking hate me for this. I've never had a crash anywhere near as bad as that. That was bad, dude. No, but there's one person that comes to mind. Excuse me. 2 people that come to mind that can top that or match it. One was James Sestola at Port Charlotte. His helicopter went up in flames in the air.
Really?
Castle Creations caught fire, and it was like nothing against Castle. I know they've come a long ways. This is years and years ago. And his thing started smoking in the air, and he hit the throttle hold from I don't know. You know, he used to fly high.
Right.
Maybe 200 feet
the whole
in the air.
Thing caught on fire.
And then it landed in the brush, and then... Or didn't land. It crashed. Soft crash because he hit hold way out there into the brush. Next thing we know, the whole freaking field is on fire. Like everything is baking, like flames coming out of the freaking grass.
But what was yours?
And it was pretty bad.
What's yours? I want to know your worst crash.
I've never had one that bad.
Let me remind you of one because I remember this one. It was like one of the first times I met you. It was at Urcha in 06.
And that's what I was going to say. Okay. That's been my ever worst.
You you crashed and ripped the boom off. You ripped the boom off. I remember that.
It was a
Stratus.
It was a Stratus. I crashed.
Starts funky
I
chickening.
came to low to the ground. It was actually not a bad crash. I remember that clearly. I was doing just like some kind of roll, low to the ground, and I clipped the blades, and somehow something happened to where the boom broke on the ground. Whatever.
Yeah.
And next thing I know, this thing is chicken dancing like a bat out of hell. This is 2006 Urcha, 11 years ago. And Beast, was it Beast? Somebody was running.
It was Craig takes his shirt off.
Craig takes his shirt off, and he goes out running to the field,
and he starts
with his shirt,
whacking it. He starts whacking the shirt
to make it stop. That thing did a pretty long chicken dance there.
It was pretty done,
but it wasn't that damaged though.
No.
It wasn't that horrible.
But then I'm reminded of, we also have to remember, I think the worst crashes, knock on wood, I haven't had this, but when it just flies away and you never hear from it again.
Let me share that story.
And I got another one for you too.
I'll
you
share
go
the
first.
story
You
quickly.
Go first.
So you and I were in MHA Fun Fly in Maryland.
Yes.
And we were flying a prototype Razor from Miniature Aircraft. This might have been 2007, probably.
Something like that.
And we're having a ball, and it's nighttime, and now it's time to night fly. And we only have one helicopter to night fly. So we put night blades on. Everything's awesome.
Mine.
And we're
share mine.
Yeah, your blades. It was my helicopter.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, it was my heli with your blades, I think.
Okay.
Anyway, I remember, the blades weren't fully charged. But we were taking turns, and you were flying one flight, and I was flying one flight, and then you're flying one flight, and I was flying one flight. But, the time we had 2 flights each or whatever, it was, my turn to fly or whatever it was. And I flew, and it was fine, no problem. And then at the end of the flight, and mind you, it's, pitch black. It's, 11 o'clock at night, summertime. There's no sun. There's no twilight. It's just pitch black, right?
Right.
And I start climbing and climbing and climbing and climbing, and I just keep going higher and higher, and I'm trying to do, a Curtis Youngblood, freaking Nick Maxwell type high altitude, auto at pitch black with night blades. And the night blades start to faint a little bit, the battery was starting to go down. They weren't off, but they weren't very bright. And next thing I know, I hit hold, and I just have no freaking clue where the hell, I could see it. I couldn't tell if it was upside down, if it was right side up, if it was to the right, to the left. And you remember this took so long? I was like, Bobby, I can't fucking tell what this thing is doing. Here you go. And I give you the radio. And the helicopter was like, I
couldn't tell.
And you couldn't tell which way it was. And then you hit the hold or whatever. And then you hand me the radio. And then I let go of the hold and it does all this shit. And I give you the... Dude, we exchanged the radio 2 or 3 times. We couldn't tell which way it was facing. It was the weirdest shit ever.
Yeah, that was weird.
The next thing I know is okay, we'll just hit the hold and let it crash. And then a group of people went out there with 10 different cars. It's by now it's midnight, maybe 1, 2 a.m. I don't even know. It was very late at night. Yeah. All the lights on, and we found it. And it was practically unharmed. You remember that?
That was a good one.
It was practically unharmed. That thing crashed from 1,000 feet, and it was unharmed. I think it broke one landing gear. It was crazy.
No, that was a good one. I remember that one. I have another one to share. Happened a little bit more recently at the Torches field. This is a good one. I remember this distinctly. So it's a older gentleman at the field. We don't need to name names, but older gentleman at the field. Poor guy just keeps rebuilding and crashing. So he gets his...
But he does it to himself every time.
So he gets a Raptor 30. He's got his Raptor 30 Nitro. And he's got the motor perfectly tuned, if not perhaps one click lean, but perfectly tuned. And he's hovering it, just repaired it from another crash. Blades are tracked perfectly. He's going up with about maybe 6 degrees of pitch up, so just ascending a little bit, and he starts yelling, I don't got it. And he's flailing his arms, and I see him wiggling the transmitter, nothing. So at this point, it's 50 to 100 feet up. And the thing is perfectly stable, just climbing a little bit. And we're uh-oh, that's not good. And and here in Florida, we fly near a really big lake, and it starts heading, the 3rd largest lake in the state, starts heading towards the lake. And about 5 minutes in, it's at thousands of feet, and we could still see it. And his timer starts going off, and at this point, we couldn't see it. We're like, "What the hell is going on here?" I can't believe it didn't turn upside down and crash. It just kept going. It was perfectly in tune, perfectly balanced. But no, so his timer starts going off, and someone at the field had some binoculars. So I get binoculars, and I start scanning it. I shit you not. About a minute after his timer went off, I see it in the distance, blade stop, just falling. And it falls and falls and falls, and then it just goes over the trees. And never to be seen again.
Wow.
Dude, the poor guy, man. So...
Who was this?
Was it Bruce?
You can share the name.
Bruce.
Oh, it was Bruce.
Yeah, it was Bruce.
Great.
But that was
somebody else lost a helicopter at the
happens.
blowout 2016 too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, somebody from Arizona.
Oh, man.
I'm not naming names.
Well, that's right. Yeah, I heard about that.
Took off and it just went into the lake.
Well,
I lost it. Goodbye.
You know what? So I think we should just be honest with the listeners, shouldn't we? About how we're breaking this up. I think we should.
Breaking it up.
Like, yeah. So we'd like to talk a little bit about crashing. And we originally tried to talk about crashing with a good friend of ours named Ray Morey and do a whole interview, but it was painful. Some people just aren't meant for the microphone. Ray, I love you to death, but it was pretty painful. But so we're just going to, we got an interview with him. We got some good bits, so we're going to toss that in here.
It sucked.
It sucked, but there's some funny shit. Let's hear about Ray's worst crash ever. Here's Ray. Perhaps you could tell the listeners about that story.
So this is the other thing about Ray that most viewers don't know. Ray will humor himself and start laughing so hard that he will literally pass out. I've seen Ray fall on the ground.
But the thing is, he'll never do it at someone else's joke. No. He has to think about something funny. And then he'll just turn bright red.
Yeah.
So what happened that day?
What happened that day? What episode is that, Bobby?
There was an episode we did
Crashing
in SmackTalk.
and Repairs.
Yeah, it was called Crashing and Repairs. It was like one of the last ones we did.
Yeah.
And Ray, maybe you could refresh our memory what happened that day?
I think I had like 8 cameras around. I was going to put Ray in the ground.
But you were supposed to purposely crash the
I was going to. I didn't care.
Out in the field. So that we could then demonstrate how to fix a machine. Right?
Correct.
Right.
So, evidently, I was doing aileron tic-tacs, and the aileron server must have said, goodbye.
Yeah, the servo, my ass.
It went up over the roof. The blades, one of the blades is stuck in the roof. Then the helicopter went in Bobby's car. The boom stuck in his door, and the helicopter went another 50 foot past that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's like the best story period. Like
that's true.
But it was a SmackTalk video about crashing and repairing helicopters. So he was supposed to crash on purpose.
Out in the field.
And
he's right. We had like 5 cameras looking at all angles of the field.
And you were supposed to then look at the helicopter and see, okay, diagnose generally the most common things that break in a crash, how to fix, blah, blah, blah.
Correct.
But he takes off and he says he had a servo failure. Thank God BK servos didn't exist way back in those days. He must have been flying some other brand. But anyway. Yeah. Well, we're not here to bash brands. But anyway, no servo fail. Bullshit. No servo failed. Ray's chicken wing failed. His own brain farted.
Right.
And he went behind the awning. Instead of crashing out on the field, he crashed behind the flight line.
He went third. We have a net that's 20-something feet in the air.
He
went over that. Yeah. Over our head.
Yeah, so for the people that are familiar with this field, the people that have been to OHB, Orlando Helicopter Blowout, in the Field of Torches, you've seen our awning, our little tin roof, whatever, aluminum roof thing, and you've seen our netting, like our safety net. He went over the net and he crashed onto the roof towards the backside where the cars are parked. And if you guys ever go to Torches, which is in the city of Ocoee, again, if you go to the blowout, pay attention to the roof because some of you might have seen it. Some of you will probably see it next time. There's a blade that is literally stuck in the roof, and we put some caulking or whatever so that when it rains, it wouldn't, water wouldn't drip or whatever. But that blade is accurately one of the blades that actually went and caught the roof when he crashed onto the roof. And then the helicopter bounced off the roof and started chicken dancing behind the roof onto that gravel and hitting Bobby's car. And
no. It chicken danced in my car.
Like on top of your car. Yeah,
inside the door.
Roof, the freaking inside, the interior.
And then bounced off of it and like all this mess. And Bobby literally went and traded that car in within like 48 hours.
No. It was a little after that. But I take it to the dealership. The car was too small for me anyway. I'm 6'4", so it's hard to fit in the little Scion. So I take it to the dealership and they say, so they ask you to like rate the overall performance of it. So what are the aesthetics? I'm like, 3 out of 5. And because other than that, it was in good shape. So the guy walks up to the car and he looks at it and he's scratching his head. And then I see him come back in and then he goes and talks to some more service guys and sales guys. And next thing you know, there's like 10 people around my car. And they finally come back in. They're like, okay, we give up. What happened? And I said, it's my good old buddy Chicken Wing. And you know, Ray, I looked the other day. I have a YouTube video that was put together of this moment. And I think now it's time that we make it public. It's been private for a while.
I have
And
no idea.
You'll have to.
It gets everything except for the actual crash. But it gets the aftermath. It gets my reaction.
But the sad thing is the crash wasn't captured on video because
No.
you had like 10
No,
cameras, but you didn't
but-
have one back there.
But it's great because it's like you hear wow, bam, and then the guy who's recording still keeps recording, and someone yells like, Bobby, you hit your car. And I'm like, Ray, you just hit my car. You want to know what you said?
I can imagine.
He's like, did I? Oh shit! So that's good. I'll make it public and we'll share it.
I'm
on
sure
our
the people
Facebook
at the
page.
dealership were looking at your car. You're like, this kid's freaking girlfriend was a maniac, went nuts, and
Oh, right,
started
like
keying
keyed my
the car.
car, yeah.
Yeah, because you have no explanation for like scratches everywhere like that.
It was pretty bad.
There's areas you can't reach to with another car, like up against it. Like, there's nothing you can do to scratch a car like that.
It was pretty good.
Yeah.
That was a
Way
good
to go,
one,
Ray. That was
nice
awesome.
job.
Yeah.
Did you? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm proud of myself.
That was the worst thing that's ever happened to one of my automobiles ever.
Yeah, dude, you're you're a funny guy because your car has scratches up the ass everywhere. But when that happened, it was like, fuck this,
And
I'm
you
done.
gave me shit. You gave
I
me
used
so
to
much
give you shit because your car was scratched. It
didn't
looked
care,
like shit.
but that
was like that
that-
was a little more than you wanted to deal with.
Yeah,
Yes.
that freaking sucked. But
I
Ray,
really pissed you off.
yeah, thanks, Ray. I really appreciate it. But no, crashing is just something that happens, and I think the best way to look at it is have some parts on hand. Don't do stupid shit, but don't I don't know. Don't stop learning because of it. And a quick thing about that too, this works hand in hand, is autos. I feel like I ask a lot of guys, they don't do autos. And I'm like, why don't you auto? And then they say, first of all, because I have a belt on my tail. No, I'm just kidding. I'm ripping on you. But they say, well, why don't you auto? They say, well, I'm too afraid to crash. Like, really, that the auto is supposed to save you from crashing. So as we've taught lots of times, turn throttle hold up, keep some head speed as you're learning to auto. And don't stop learning that.
Being able to auto is super important. But the other thing that I think is very important too is that I see a lot of people screw up with is changing helicopters all the time. Like, just stick to the same heli to get better.
Agree. If
that's-
you want to get better. If that's
you
your
wanna
thing.
get better,
But if you
yeah.
like to build and just fly a new model like 10 times, that's your thing, do it.
Yeah, sure, do it.
Yeah,
but always go back to that good old model that you fly and you beat the shit out of all the time, because that's the one that you're going to be the most comfortable with.
Yeah, I think so. And fly something
And
you can
crash the
afford
least,
to crash.
yeah.
Fly something you can afford to crash.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. But nice. Well, another thing we chatted with Ray about, which is really cool. It's something we want to bring into the blowout this year. Right?
The
Derby.
I don't know that we can, but it would
We
be
gotta do
interesting to do it.
So anyway, we talked with Ray about the Derby. This was an event that was held years ago. So let's see what he has to say about the Derby. But anyway, it was at Atlantic City, and it was a contest where you could enter with a 30, 50, or 90 size helicopter. A 30, 50?
600 size, 30 size engine.
Okay,
Engine.
so that was it. And so everyone had to fly like similar size heli, and there were two like posts that you had to fly around in like an oval, and it was 3, 2, 1, go, and then whoever stayed in the air the longest won. Period. And you could use a header tank, but that was it. And so
you need a stock helicopter,
stock helicopter,
30 size engine, and then it was a matter of
I think
like
it was a 50 too. 50s were allowed, but
But
that was it.
it was a matter of managing,
Yeah,
the lowest
yeah.
speed you could get away with, and managing your
Exactly.
throttle inputs, your collective, I guess. Yeah.
Exactly. So Ray comes up. He's like, "Hey, you should fly my helicopter." I'm like, "Okay, sure. Like, I have nothing to lose." And he's like, "I'll split it with you." I'm like, "Okay, whatever. Sure."
$1,000.
It was like
It was
$1,000.
$1,000?
It was
Really?
$1,000.
$1,000.
It was like $1,000. So we get Ray's engine like perfectly on the lean side, like just put it lean a little bit so that we could just sit there and fly in circles. And we won. We still had a lot of fuel left. So that's the Derby. We should do that, dude, during the blowout.
The problem is people are not into nitro as much anymore these days as they are into electric. So how do you make that work with electrics?
You can't because people don't want to toast their battery. because it's going to toast it.
Well, most people have to have some old piece of shit battery, no?
That's true. Maybe we should. But you can rig an electric to fly for like an hour.
You can. Yeah.
Maybe
Shit,
we can make some rule. You'd have to just make it like really specific, like maximum 6S 5000. Maximum is like 550 blades. You know what I mean? Oh crap! I hit the mic. You would just have to give it like
a host.
You're the host. I'm a co-host.
Yeah.
You'd have to give them like really specific requirements, but we should do it. If that sounds cool to anybody, leave a comment or reply or
let us know what you think about this derby idea. Yeah,
share it. But yeah, that's pretty much wrapping us up for today. And as we just mentioned, if you guys can, we've been getting a lot more comments and emails recently, which we definitely appreciate. So keep them coming. It helps us come up with new content. And
we will actually soon have some episodes about some of the comments that you guys were probably thinking about doing some technical stuff down the road.
We should do that live.
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
Yeah.
We should go live, ask people to write in and do like a technical sort of thing.
Yeah, we'll do that.
It's just not as interesting to talk about for a podcast, but
it's good if we make it interactive with people. Yeah, we'll do that sometime in the future for sure.
Yeah, we'll make a post. Soon. Just keep an eye on that. And we've been staying on top of it on Facebook recently. We put out some videos the other day of some super, super slow-mo stuff. Bert was doing a chaos, and I was cutting the grass inverted. And this was actually a shoot we did years ago. This was probably 4 years ago. 3-4 years ago.
3 to 4.
3 to 4. And
we never posted any footage about it.
No. And a good friend of mine, Jordy Klein, I do all my aerial filming with him. He and his father have been in the business for years. But he and IX Cameras were nice enough to come out and do a shoot.
And what camera was this again?
It's called IX, iSpeed. I think it's a discontinued camera now. They've got a new one that we've used that's sick. I'll try to get that because I think it can do 4K.
How much was this camera?
$100,000.
It's now, how many? Do you happen to know how many frames per second this particular video was done at? Was it 2,000?
I forget what we were shooting that day. But I believe the new one is capable of like 15,000 frames a second.
But this had to be about 2,000 because if you think that the head speed on my helicopter was...
But we ramped it. So we changed it in editing.
Yeah. But, it was ramped. It wasn't like it was probably slower than that. But it was just way too slow.
Yeah, we're referring to videos. If you want to go look at facebook.com/BertRC or facebook.com/BobbyWattsHeli, and you can see we posted these 2 videos, and it's really cool what you can see in super slow-mo. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And we sat out there with Jordy that day and did a lot of different maneuvers that would look cool in slow-mo. And so I think we should talk to him and do that again because that was cool. And we should do that again with a better camera.
And it's really cool too, Bobby, that if you think about it, like I think on that video that we posted on my Facebook, there's one complete pyroflip. It's like from right side up to upside down, upside down to almost right side up again, right?
Yep.
And I don't know how long that video is.
2 minutes.
2 minutes.
2 to 2.5.
And in real life, that takes about 2 seconds, maybe?
Yeah.
2 to 3 maybe 3 seconds to do right side up to upside down, back to right side up. Yeah, that's crazy.
It's cool to see. And then with the grass cutting, I think the coolest part is you see the blades get lowered into the grass and it chops the grass. But I think the coolest part is that you then see a few inch long grass segments just flying around and the blades hitting them again. So it's like, the piece of grass is getting hit a few times. So it was a cool little shoot we did. So once again, I'd love to do that again. So if you guys like the video, leave a comment or whatever with some ideas of maneuvers we could try that would probably look good in slow-mo. There's some really cool stuff we could do with that.
People liked it, dude. I mean, this video reached...
Yours was ridiculous.
73,000 people.
Holy shit.
Got 30,000 views and 380 shares and 765 likes.
You're welcome. You're welcome for editing that video for you.
Thank you.
Dickhead.
The music is very dramatic. It's very cool.
Do you know where that music is from?
It's from a movie.
Okay.
Armageddon.
Nice call.
Yeah.
Nice, you got it.
Yeah.
I think it's copyright violation, but we're not charging for it.
We're not charging.
We don't make any money off of it.
No.
So yeah, it was cool.
So tell me about this dinosaur meets helicopter, or
It's a segment. RC Helly's Meet.
Yeah, talk to
very
me
simple.
about that shit. Yeah.
Thank you. So I started a segment on my YouTube and Facebook page. It's really simple. RC Helly's Meet blank. So the first one is obvious. RC Helly's meets Jurassic Park.
What's
So
the
you
point
take-
of it, though?
Just to fly to music, period. That's it. I used to do it a lot in competitions, and I love music. I love flying. I love doing both at the same time. So pretty much I just come up with a theme to fly to. So the first one was Jurassic Park because the theme is just awesome, and incorporated a stupid little dinosaur into it. Did a quick edit, filmed the first flight that I ever did to that music, and just let it go. So it's just about just having fun with it.
Well, didn't you get somebody else like Kyle Stacy to do another one?
He did one that day. He did one to Elvis, and it was cool.
Elvis?
Yeah, because I want to do different stuff. And
Yeah.
my second one I did was to Guns N' Roses, the Appetite for Destruction album, their first album. And that one came out really good. And I want to do more, I want to do R.C. Helly's meets Frank Sinatra, or R.C. Helly's meets Cirque du Soleil. You know what I mean? Anything crazy, just something weird.
Yeah.
And Kyle did Elvis, and we shot it, but he was hauling ass the whole time, and it was really big with a electric. It was hard to follow with the phone. It just didn't come out great, so we didn't post it yet. But he's in town this weekend, so I will ask him to do another one. And
Nice.
you said you were going to do one.
I'll do one.
What are you going to do?
Cirque du Soleil sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, just something.
You know, I
interesting.
flew to that at XFC one year. Like
Really?
one of the known maneuvers, I had Cirque du Soleil music. Yeah.
I think it's cool, and it's just meant to be fun, nothing serious. But if anyone wants to do it, make their own RC Helly's meet whatever. RC Helly meets Metallica. RC Helly's meet Britney Spears or Backstreet Boys.
I want to
That'd
do
be
like
funny. That'd be
Ozzy
cool.
Osbourne,
You should do it.
and I'd like to do Van Halen. Yeah.
Nice.
But
I would
yeah,
like to see it.
You
So,
guys should do it, and don't forget tag
tag.
RC Helly's alive.
Oh yeah, the keep RC Helly's alive, or
And
hashtag whatever you want.
RC Helly's
Yeah.
meet.
Yep. And
Whatever.
just post it on our page. Facebook's really like the easiest. Like that's the number one best social platform for RC helicopters, I would argue, because nothing else allows you to post the type of content that works the best for RC helis.
I agree.
So tag us there on Facebook, and we've been pretty active recently. So hopefully we can keep it going. But as always, leave us questions, comments. Tell us you totally disagree with us. Tell us if you agree with us. Share it.
Just be honest. Tell us if you hate the freaking show or if you like
Yeah.
it, if you want us to continue, if you want any particular topics or subjects that you want us to talk about, and just and we'll try to do our best.
Yeah. Today was fun, though. I enjoyed the little chat today.
Yeah.
So thank you guys for listening. On behalf of Mr. Chicken Wing, Ray Morey, we appreciate it.
And if you need to get a hold of us, Bobby's available at Facebook or Facebook.com/Bobby Watts Helly.
Yep.
I'm available at Facebook.com/BirdRC. We're
it.
both available together at Facebook.com/SmackTalk RC. Our website is www.smacktalkrc.com, where you can download this podcast, or you can download it through iTunes or YouTube.
And lots of others. I think you get this through Spotify
Yeah,
and shit.
I don't know.
There's
whomever indexes
just
it.
Google
whatever.
it.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's it.
Thank
Thank you guys.
you.
It's been fun. Next time. Bye.